Hello and welcome to all the ghouls and vampires out there. I'm Joe, here with me is my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
I have seen this trailer or part of it before. Dan's not seen it, and I'm really excited because I love the Demeter. Now, if you'll recall, in the Dracula novel, the Demeter is the ship that transports Dracula's coffin to England. So, very, very important ship. But everybody on the ship ends up dead. Except for, I think, one guy who jumps overboard at one point. And I think he survives. I don't remember. Well, actually, it's not. It's implied he might have died. He doesn't come up in the story anymore, I think. And I like to think that he survives. Just because it's funny. Because the one guy who was smart enough to go, oh, shoot, I'm in a horror story. Jump overboard. Anyways. Last Voyage of the Demeter. Here we go.
Evil is on board.
Sick.
Powerful evil.
We call him Dracula.
So the kid's supposed to be an XP for Huckleberry Finn. Only thing is, he's not in a Tom Sawyer story. So I like the little nod to Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn with the black man and the kid. But they're not in a Huckleberry Finn Mark Twain story. So they're not going to survive. I could already tell you that much. Because they're in a horror story. And the thing about Dracula is Dracula's a love story between Mina and Jonathan. It's a romance novel with some adventure and some horror. And I know there's going to be some schmuck who's like, but my Drac and Mina. No. Mina doesn't like her rapist. She likes... Sorry, I know I shouldn't use that term on YouTube, but let's be honest. Let's call it what it is. That's what a vampire's bite is a euphemism for. It's a violation of a lady, typically. That's why it's always a guy violating a woman. But when a woman bites the man, it's also a violation because vampire. It's a metaphor for this. So here we have Dracula, which is traditionally a romance novel because Mina and Jonathan's love story is the main through line throughout the story. And you have this one moment in the story which you could make a horror story out of. So I'm glad they did.
Demeter's a fine belt, no doubt.
Wait, why is there a lady on board?
I don't know.
Why would they have a lady on board? They should only have Renfield as a guest. Because Renfield's found the ship. There's no woman on the ship. They wouldn't have had a woman on the ship.
Yeah, especially when delivering goods. Probably your obligatory romance subplot.
But they're at sea. They shouldn't have one, unless you have another sailor man. I'm joking. But she's on the ship because, yeah. Let's chuck historic reasoning and logic and plot out window. But
She's probably the resident scream queen.
yeah. So it's basically she's there to fill out a quota. Like, that's the problem. You should not have to bend the plot and the logic to fit a quota. And she is fitting a quota because she doesn't contribute anything, it seems. Because they would not have had a woman on board the ship unless a wife of one of the sailors. But even then, I don't think... No, they wouldn't have had her on board. She'd be on land waiting for her husband to come back home with her 3 to 6 or 7 kids. I'm just saying that's how it would have been. And now, before anyone says, what about the black guy? Well, actually, in hindsight, you got to bear in mind the civil rights of Great Britain and France went through in the year 1800. Well, between 1793 and 1800. So, black men became human beings in the eyes of the law at the time. And for a black man to be on board a ship as a sailor, yeah,
Wasn't an odd thing at the time.
no, you did have them. Although, there weren't as many Africans in the British service as there are today. But, hey, if you had a few on board a ship, I don't think it'd be that weird in hindsight because the civil rights movements. Heck, just look up Dido Bell and her uncle, and you'll see the judge or Lord Chief Justice Mansfield, I believe it is, and the ruling of 1800. Slaves became human beings, and slavery became outlawed. So, even him being a doctor could work. So, he would have needed a patron, but then again, it's as if you consider the fact that you wouldn't have an Irish doctor for the most part unless they had a patron, which it did happen. So it could happen here with an African Englishman. So, okay, him, it could work. The kid, it could work because he's basically a cabin boy. The dog, sure, I believe the Demeter did have a dog on board the ship. So that could work. The chick, where the heck does she come from? And it doesn't look like she's a stowaway. So
Generally, if a woman is on such a boat, then we're probably looking at pirates.
yeah,
Because there were female pirates, but
but not in this era. This is supposed to be the year 1890 something, or 1883 or 87 or something. This is the 1880s and 1890s. There wouldn't be any female pirates, at least not on an English vessel. And this is a vessel from England.
and
So they were very firm on their rules, and no woman on such a ship, I believe. So
they're carrying cargo.
yeah. Now, that said, if you can prove that there were women on the occasional ship like this and use actual historic examples, I'll concede to an extent, but still, in the actual book, it's reported that there were no women on board the Demeter. So that is an important plot point. And I'd rather they stick to the plot of the book. That said, what did you think overall of the trailer?
Well, we do have an idea of the cast of characters and the plot, which that is an important part
Yeah.
of a trailer.
And it's not showing us the entire movie.
Exactly. And you're rallying behind certain characters that you want to survive.
Yeah. I don't want the chick to survive because I resent her existence in the film. And I know someone's going to say, so, you're not in support of a scream queen. No, I don't mind a scream queen, but
It has its place.
yeah. Now, on the other hand, if they're making a actual Dracula film, like what I mean is a novel adaptation, I want Mina to be the main scream queen. You have to bring in Mina as alongside Jonathan as the main characters, and their love story has to be the main plot, so to speak, to an extent. Well, not the whole plot, but it plays a large role, and yet for some reason they never portray this love story, which is ironically one of the best written love stories in 19th century literature. Go figure. But overall, this is a really solid trailer, and there's, I think, a lot of potential. I think there's another trailer, which we'll have to check as it... Oop. Turns out I couldn't find it, so... Don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button to stay tuned for a review of this movie.